You're about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So it's about flipping time. For years, we've been looking at the food stamp program, or now what we have is SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and looking at individuals who might be misallocating those funds as opposed to buying healthy food for their children, using it for soda pop, using it for junk food, sugary drinks, sugary snacks. And it took RFK Jr. and the current HHS to say, look, this is wrong. So Colorado is now exempting soda and sugary drinks from their SNAP benefits. How that is going to work is, and I guess the U.S. Department of Agriculture had to allow it, the USDA. But Colorado was going to ban sugary beverages and soda from being purchased with SNAP funds. The announcement was made yesterday. The state submitted a waiver request on May 13th. The waiver is going to take effect 2026. The SNAP waiver is designed to bring a focus, according to Fox 31, KDVR, for healthy eating, according to Colorado Governor Jared Polis. Well done. The waiver changes what foods can be purchased. Now, beneficiaries can still get milk, obviously, and can get 100% fruit juice. So 100% orange juice or cranberry, but these sugary drinks that have 10% real juice, no. Now, we still have a long way to go. There's still a lot of junk food that, unfortunately, is being bought. But if you have soft drinks, artificial sweeteners, which provide no nutritional benefit whatsoever, why is our Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program covering that? So the waiver, specifies, don't worry, this is not covering baby formula, milk, etc. And I think it's obvious, but in a statement, Governor Polis called Colorado one of the healthiest states in the nation and noted that its 24.9% obesity rate is one of the lowest in the 50 states, but the rate is still too high, and said it endangers and shortens the lives of too many Coloradans. So today's waiver, they say, is a big step towards improving the health of Coloradans. So absolutely, it's about time. Now, Colorado was not the first. Denver passed measures before in terms of, Happy Meals and kids' meals and, what restaurants could serve. So Colorado has been one of the trendsetters with that. I was just in Colorado a couple months ago. Beautiful state, healthy looking people, a lot of activity, a lot of exercise. And so, when people look at what RFK Jr. is doing and Maha and, the critics, this is a bipartisan, common sense, popular issue. It is okay for you to be Democrat and agree that taxpayer money should not go to junk food or should not go to unhealthy foods for kids. That's okay. Just like you could be Republican and agree with Governor Polis and what he's doing. Now, I think we are going to get so much done if we could just forget about the R and the D and just use some common flippin' sense. More states are banning junk food from SNAP benefits. West Virginia, Florida, Colorado, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas have all these new waivers that they have submitted to the USDA to modify what they could use for their food benefits. It blows my mind that the default allows the junk food to be bought. It's really easy to limit what SNAP covers. You can't use it for alcohol. You can't use it for cigarettes. There's already limits. I'm just kind of blown away that this whole junk food and soda pop and diet soda and that is the default. And we now have to waiver it out, and we have to filter it out and do blocks to stop funds being used for that. That kind of makes, I don't know why that wasn't implemented from day one. As I told you, I remember back in the 90s, WIC, where how it worked was you could go to the grocery store and grab the lettuce, grab the eggs, grab the chicken, the turkey, go up to the counter, show your WIC credentials or WIC card, and you get those for free. And I thought that was fantastic because we knew that real food was hopefully going to that table and then being used to feed kids. I mean, obviously cook the chicken so nobody gets salmonella. But now if it's, run to this card and I get a few $100s a month, we taxpayers are now, carrying the burden of these kids with obesity, these kids with diabetes, people's congestive heart failure and heart disease and high cholesterol. We're already paying up the retroperitoneum with these high insurance premiums because of how unhealthy everybody is. On top of that, we're going to be putting tax dollars into junk food as well. So it's a shame there's only 6 states, but Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, and Utah, from what I understand, are also moving to ban it. So 40 million people use supplemental assistance nutrition program. I think it is high time that Republicans and Democrats combine forces to make sure our supplemental assistance nutrition program supplements the nutrition of people who need the assistance. All right, we are assisting their nutrition. And now we still have candies, I think, and some sugary cereals. See, that would be fantastic if you have, certain cereals or healthy foods that are free to individuals where they get like a limit. Like WIC, I really think, I wonder why WIC ended, and I need to look into that because it would be nice to know that the healthy food is getting to them. Now, you can't make them eat. You could lead a horse to water and you can't make them drink. You can't necessarily make children, eat the healthy food, but at least the taxpayers aren't contributing to it. So, fantastic work, Governor Polis in Colorado. I hope that all states will follow and eliminate sugar junk food as well from SNAP benefits. If somebody wants to buy them, they can buy them, just not on the government dime. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I rode the bus a lot to go to school, and I remember standing there at the bus stop, and the bus would come. And if he was in a good mood, he would park right where we were and let us on. If he wasn't, he would go a little farther, then put on the brakes, and all this exhaust and smoke we would feel and breathe in. And then we would enter the bus. Hi, bus driver. I didn't like riding the bus, because I didn't like the smell. I didn't like the pollution, and I didn't like getting picked on. But millions of kids, millions of students are going to be riding the school bus this year, and I am so excited to have our guest back because he is going to talk to us about what many parents are feeling. A new survey says parents are ready for something a lot cleaner than what we're currently using with diesel buses. So coming back on the show is Tucker Perkins, President and CEO of the Propane Education and Research Council, with information on the survey and how to improve our rides to school. Tucker, thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it.
Well, I love that passionate introduction for your own experience, and I look forward to having this conversation.
Absolutely. So I love how you guys are getting the pulse of what the parents want. Talk to us about this survey.
Yeah, I'll talk, over the course of this interview about 2 or 3 findings from it. But the first one that was interesting, and again, we surveyed parents and educators. So a narrow focus of that, but 80% of them, more than 80% actually, thought their children deserve to ride to school in a low-emission bus powered by propane. That's interesting to us because that doesn't mirror reality. The reality is most children ride to school the way their parents and grandparents went to school in a diesel-powered school bus. And so we see that parents see there's a better way.
Absolutely. And talk to us about why it's better.
Yeah, I think it's better for the child. Let's start there. I think that's the most important part of this conversation, healthier for the child. We've been behind that school bus when it pulled away from the bus stop. We've seen that cloud of black smoke. We've smelled that cloud of black smoke. Choose propane bus, and that cloud of black smoke is gone, right? We know inside that black smoke are pollutants and irritants that cause asthma, bronchitis, carcinogens actually in there. And so the child gets a healthier ride to school, quieter, much quieter, and so they can talk with their friends, the driver can hear them, the driver can instruct them, much safer for them on the way. And then teachers tell us that quiet ride, the child is calmer when they get to school, they get into learning mode faster. So a great benefit for the child.
Oh, absolutely. And also the environment, too. I mean, look at what's being spewed out into the environment with these buses. Yeah, so that's a huge impact as well.
Yeah, that black cloud of smoke is gone. So we can take that away. What you cannot see is also lower greenhouse gas output, so much better for the child, for everybody's health in which those buses drive up and down your streets, and then better for the environment as we reduce greenhouse gases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a big push for electric, but I love the idea of propane buses. Talk to us about the cost of these.
I want to first talk about the cost compared to diesel, but thank you for even opening up because I firmly believe that school buses of the future will be powered either by propane or by battery electric. But let's first talk about the benefits to diesel. Same initial cost as a diesel bus, but it costs half to operate. For most school systems, that looks like $3,000 to $5,000 per bus per school year. And so just think about it. If you have 100 buses, that's $500,000 a year in savings. But I love to talk about the comparison to electric school buses because so many people believe that the only true bus for the environment is an electric school bus. So first off, they don't think about where electricity comes from. 65% of the electric grid comes from burning coal, oil, and natural gas, right? So in many states, a propane school bus might be better for the environment than an electric bus if we really think about where electricity comes from, how we transport it, how we store it, as compared to a very clean burning fuel like propane or renewable propane. The other big advantage over electric buses are very expensive. You can buy 4 propane buses for 1 electric bus. Mm-hmm. And frankly, whether you choose propane or electricity is irrelevant if you still have a big fleet of dirty diesel buses. So choosing propane allows you to get rid of your diesel fleet 4 times the rate. And that's really where you benefit the child, the school system, and the environment.
Mm-hmm. And not to go off topic, but because we're talking about safety, but, I know a lot of parents have been worried about, electric battery and car fires and, propane, do we have, I know the National Transportation Safety Board is trying to catch up in terms of data on, electric vehicle fires versus fuel versus, do we have a lot of data on propane engine fires or not yet?
Yeah, so propane-fueled vehicles have probably been around 50 years or more, so there's a lot of data. In fact, we see a lot of police fleets that have been making the conversion from gasoline to propane, and one of the things they liked, they felt like it was a safer fuel for them at high speeds, and in some of the situations only policemen face. I would say this, we all acknowledge that children probably are the most precious cargo that we could carry in any vehicle. And so we don't recommend conversions or aftermarket adjustments. We want these factory buses coming new from the factory, purpose-built and designed to use propane. And so we know that they are safe. We have a lot of, incident data over the years that proved to us it's safe. But, that said, it's the most precious cargo, and I think we're working every day to make these buses safer. I would add, you already yourself said, I like to extend safety to a little bit, to think about the child riding in these diesel buses being impacted by those emissions. I don't view that as safe or positive at all. And so when we expand safety to think about the total bus, the fuel, the environment, I think propane buses are very safe.
I'm a huge fan of them. We're speaking to Tucker Perkins, President and CEO of the Propane Education and Research Council. So the cost, getting these, as you said, they're cheaper than electric vehicles. So, how common are these? How can we, start to get school districts and cities to pay for these?
So we're really proud. There are 22,000 propane buses operating around the country today. A lot of systems have either achieved 100% penetration or are well on their way to getting there. The fact is there's still 400,000 buses operating on diesel fuel. Some systems, thousands of school systems, haven't even thought about converting from diesel to propane. And that's why we're starting this conversation now around back to school and engaging parents. The last survey question that interested me is, parents were willing to do this. They liked the idea. They were very concerned about the cost. Once they learned the facts and realized that there could be cost savings, they were 90% more likely to act. And so it's a great move forward. But as we see in so many things right now, we're well past talking. We need to learn and then act.
Absolutely, because I'm hearing school districts are talking about moving electric, and what the statistic you gave is 4-to-1 in terms of the cost. I mean, we could have 4 buses for propane
we
fuel.
See that. Yeah. I love the fact that fleets are talking about moving away from diesel, and they're working between whether to choose propane or electric. And I think both are great fuels, and there are opportunities for both. For us, the real opportunity lies in that much lower initial cost, because, as I said, the culprit is not really a big benefit whether you choose propane or electric, except for the propane buses can be replaced 4 times faster. And that's really how you get rid of those diesel buses at 4 times the rate, and you get a clean and affordable fleet by using propane.
So nice. Tucker, where can my listeners go for more information?
BetterOurBuses.com. BetterOurBuses.com. It's a complex topic. It's where you can go learn facts. You can learn how to engage and to start a conversation. And as I said, This is the time to start a conversation. We're back to school. Let's focus on something that we don't often focus on, but that minute detail, which we now know is so important about how our children leave our neighborhood, get to and from school.
So true. Tucker Perkins, can't wait to have you back. I love having you on every year, and keep us posted on your progress, okay?
Thank you so much for having me today.
Take care. All right, guys, don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So you would think our generations were limited to, we got the baby boomers, previously the traditionalists. After the baby boomers, we got Gen X, woohoo, millennials, Gen Zs, Generation Alpha. Now we have the Generation Betas. So you would think our generations were just limited to those groups. Well, with COVID, we started to have this Generation COVID. And the Generation Alphas do not want to be called Generation COVID. Neither did the Gen Zs or the Millennials. So we use this term, Generation COVID, for those individuals whose lives changed, whose lives were deeply impacted by COVID, which to me is everybody. All right? And that's COVID messed up a lot. It was an advantage for some, but, messed up a lot of us. But we have this growing generation called the Generation Jobless. And this is something that is not necessarily affecting everybody, but it is growing. And the generation, or the pool of people who are jobless, are finding themselves in a rut. So, the idea of a generation means it's a long amount of time. And it's a block of time. I'm Gen X. That's my generation. Now, my generation doesn't mean I'm Gen X all the way through, or doesn't mean I grew up in the 80s, and rocked out to, rock music. I get that, depending on how you use it. In my generation, we did this. Are you talking about in the olden days, the past, or your current generation? Because current Gen X, we still do things different ways. Right? But while you have the millennials and the Gen Zs all good on tech, me as a Gen X, I just find a millennial and Gen Z. That's what my generation does. Figure this out. Right? Hell, we still make fun of the boomers because we made fun of everybody when we were Gen X. Gen X is what we had mouths on us. We really did. We had big mouths, and I'm really proud of that. So as far as I'm concerned, that my generation is continuing to generate a lot of big mouth stuff. But this Generation Jobless is some serious stuff. And we speak about this a lot on our show, which is there's a term for it now. And for those people who are Generation Jobless, they are usually in the Gen Z, could also be in the millennial category, could also be Gen X, could even be baby boomers, where COVID messed things up. The heaviest hit generation are the Gen Zs and the older Gen Alphas, where although Gen Alpha started in 2010, so they really weren't working age. Just to recap, the traditionalists were born before 1945. 45 to 65 are the baby boomers, although a lot of baby boomers said, look, if we were born at 41, 42, we're baby boomers. I agree. We used to call that group baby boomers if you were born during World War II and post-World War II when people were on leave. So I give you that. But anyway, the baby boomer generation ended at 65. Gen X's were from 1965 to 1980. Millennials, 1980 to 1995. Gen Z's, 95 to 2010. Generation Alpha, 2010 to 2025. And now the Generation Betas are growing. I need to write a book. I have a book on Gen Alpha. I need to write a book on Gen Beta. The Generation Jobless were individuals where COVID messed them up. They were out of a job. 5 months turned to 5 years. And they lost momentum on what they were doing with their career, or they lost abilities to gain experience and CV builders. So when I look at resumes, because people will have me look at their resume, whether it's a medical student, whether it's a non-medical student, and I look at the resume, there's major gaps and they're very light. And you see the big font, right? And the narrow margins. It's one trick we do. Really have your name up in big font and really bold. Everything has to be at least 14 points. Make those margins at least 2 to 3 inches. I mean, we do what we can, but how do you get substance? And I am hearing a lot of my friends have kids in their 20s now and mid-20s, and these Gen Zs especially, they can't get a job. They go online, they'll use Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever, and they'll get they'll fill it out. They'll get an email saying, thank you for filling out the application. And then within minutes or days or weeks and maybe never, that, now, we're not hiring you. And unemployment is ridiculous now, especially for individuals who thought they had to go to college, borrow a bunch of money, and then get a degree when you saw thousands of other people also getting those degrees. The problem with colleges is they keep taking in students and promising you the world, and there's too many people with degrees. Now degrees are starting to become worthless, or too many people have them. You know, we're seeing this with medical schools. These medical schools are expanding their class size. I'm like, but are there residencies? Are there positions for these students? If you're not, helping build residencies, then you have all these medical students graduating, and many of them, I think 2,000 medical students will not have a job because there's not enough places for them to go after they graduate. Lawyers are running into the same problem. Remember, there was a lawyer who graduated law school, couldn't find a job for 6 months, so he turned around and sued his school. I mean, he was trained to sue. So he's going to sue somebody, and if he's not working, he'll just turn around and sue the school. And he sued the school for false advertising. You said we'd get jobs if we go to your school and if we spent these tens of thousands of dollars. So what do you do if you're in Generation Jobless? Okay, well, you got to be. So if I was a prospective employer, and I understand that COVID wasn't just something that happened 5 years ago, although I really think the virus leaked roughly around this time 6 years ago. But I understand America was affected more so in the early part of 2020. All right. My question would be, when COVID hit, what did you do? Then what did you do in 2021? What did you do in 2022? What did you do in 2023? And what did you accomplish? Now, some people did. They went back to work. They got jobs. They got whatever they could. But they said, I know, but what I did is I bartended and maybe I love that. If you bartended and you were a medical student, I bartended. You have to make money. You have to live. I would rather see that you bartended, that you waited tables, that you took a job and you worked. I don't want to see prostitution. I don't necessarily want to see OnlyFans on there, on your resume. But if you actually, got yourself out there and worked and tried to make connections, etc., I think that's admirable. I think everybody should have food service on their resume. I waited tables. tended bar. I think it made me a better doctor. Because again, you learn how to deal with people. You have to time manage. You understand customer service. It's probably one of the best trainings. I even tell my boys, become waiters or bussers. You need to learn, how people think, how people act. And it was great tips too. If you struggle to get a job, if you got depressed, if you got into shall we say, a rhythm where you did a little bit here and then you did a little bit there, one thing I would recommend then, if you're especially jobless now, because not only did we have the COVID issue, now we have the AI issue and the robotic issue. And now human resources departments, there's nobody sitting in a human resources department. So you try to pavement pound, walk in, there's nobody there to ask for an application. Some places will do that. There might be some managers on staff, but most of them, they're like, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of, doing my nails. Just go online. So you don't get that one-on-one. You don't get to schmooze them. You don't get to, let them see who you are and hopefully like you and then say, look, let me talk to you for a few minutes and here's an application. So what I suggest Generation Jobless do if they are struggling is, one, go back to school and get trade certification or get some more credentials. Wouldn't hurt. Number two is do some volunteer work. Work with charities. You could fill up your resume showing all the charity work you did. And if a prospective employer says, well, what did you do when you weren't working? I go, I kept myself busy. Whether I was getting paid or not, I wanted to be, I wanted to help contribute to society. But get your butts out there. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hi, guys. Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious, such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, I'm looking at a lot of our health statistics, and we're seeing some alarming numbers, especially as it pertains to obesity-related cancer deaths. These have soared over the last 2 decades, and I'm really glad RFK Jr. and the MAHA movement is trying to address this. But we are being told that obesity-related cancer deaths have soared in the U.S. from 3.73 million to 13.52 million. So quadrupled in the last 2 decades. It's according to a study by researchers at Jersey Shore University Medical Center and Hackensack Meridian Health. It was presented last month at Endo 2025, which is the Endocrine Society's annual meeting in San Francisco. They looked at 33,000 deaths from obesity-related cancers between 1999 and 2020. They looked at mortality data, and they found that older adults, females, and racial minorities were found to have a higher burden of risk. Overall, the Midwest had a higher rate of obesity-related cancer deaths, and the Northeast had the lowest. Vermont, Minnesota, and Oklahoma had the highest rates. Utah, Alabama, and Virginia, the lowest. Now, that's interesting. Alabama usually gets very, very low marks as it pertains to high obesity rates in health. But Alabama actually ranked lower in terms of obesity-related cancer deaths. According to the CDC, more than 40% of Americans have obesity. I think it's almost 50% now. This raises our blood pressure risk, our heart disease risk, diabetes, cholesterol, kidney disease risk, but it also increases our risk for 13 different types of cancer. Esophageal cancer, according to Fox News, ovarian cancer, pancreas cancer, thyroid cancer, brain cancer, multiple myeloma, as well as what we've also talked about, liver cancer, kidneys, upper stomach, gallbladder, uterus, colon, rectum, and of course, breast. So what do we do? Yeah, we keep hearing this over and over again. Cancer deaths going up. Our types of cancer is evolving because of all the obesity. Our obesity is going up. So I like what's happening. Colorado is joining other states to start banning sugary drinks and junk food from SNAP. That's a start. Okay, don't give free money for bad food. In terms of our physical fitness, Trump has reintroduced the presidential physical fitness test, or the presidential fitness test, where we had to run a mile. We had to do, I just remember in the 80s, we got to do these are benchmarks you have to hit. Let's see you run the mile. Let's see you. And I ran it. I never had to walk. And I remember I was able to get a 6-minute mile done, before I went to high school. So I was pretty happy with my athletic abilities. But the average kid, it's not, urged or recommended. Everything's all about fat shaming. And we'll love your body, and it's okay, and we'll make accommodations. I would rather when we're doing aptitude and academic testing and looking at where kids need remediation, we do that with their athletics and their physical abilities. All right, I notice you have lower strength in your left arm. Let's work on that. Let's do some activities where we work on that. And they don't have to be doctors. They could be coaches, physical therapists, personal trainers at the school. People say, "Oh, Dr. Daliah, schools have enough work dealing with the academics." Apparently, they're not dealing with the academics well either. I think 50 minutes a class is ridiculous. Let's make the classes shorter in the mornings, the academics in the morning, where it's the concrete what they need. We're going to teach it. You're going to practice it. And you're going to do it. Right? You got the concept down. We got the lesson in. Now, next subject. No more than 20, 30 minutes each topic. The morning, the academics are done. And then the afternoon, it's all about your exercise, your life skills, your being exposed to all the trades. And these kids are going to be really well-rounded. They're going to be healthy. They'll know first aid. They'll know Krav Maga. They'll know how to defend themselves, self-defense. They'll know how to farm, cook. They'll understand marketing, education, the stock market, construction, plumbing, electricians. They'll, even truck driving. I mean, maybe we should have classes teaching kids how to use farm equipment. Driver's ed isn't just about a car. You should learn how to drive other things. And so the more practical, then the more they feel confident applying to jobs and looking at other jobs. So, I mean, we just couldn't let them pilot a plane. But let them at least see what the life of a pilot's like. You could do these week or 2 week long rotations that give them that access. So by the time they're 16, they have an idea of what they want to do. They graduate when they're 16, and then years 17 and 18 years old, that's where they get their associate's degree or their trade certificate. We don't have to pay for free college. Taxpayers don't have to pay for free college. It's incorporated into what is our current high school, K through 12, where 11th and 12th grade is getting them an associate's degree or trade certificate and getting them so that by the time they're 18 years old, they are out and ready to get a job. But exercise needs to be a part of that. And if we have a child that cannot run a mile and they have to walk or they're huffing and puffing, why aren't we getting a doctor involved? Why aren't we looking at them and remediating them? Why are they out of shape? No child should be out of shape if they don't have a disability. But we are making them have a disability. And then they could later have cancer. So, one big thing parents say is, look, these kids don't want to eat healthy food. Okay, now why is that? My sons loved carrots and peas when they were babies. What changed? Well, they were able to make a choice. They saw there was something sweet, something yummy. So then they wanted that. Now, when I raised them, I said, no, you got to eat your peas, you got to eat your carrots, you got to eat your vegetables first. You got to eat your spinach. Then you don't get the rest of your food. Sorry. I remember my mom, horrible cook. I follow in her footsteps. Horrible cook, should serve us whatever, and I wouldn't eat it. And I'm like, I'm full. She goes, if you're too full for your dinner, then you're too full for dessert. I couldn't argue with that logic. It was one of the very few times my mom was actually logical. And I'm like, So I would try to eat the healthy food, but I got the healthy food in me. But we've given these kids the idea that you have a choice. You have a choice to do your homework. You have a choice to go to school. Now, I don't want the kids raised like I was, where your choice was you go to school or the belt. We don't want that. But I have parents all the time. My daughter needs another school note, and it's her 8th one in the semester. And I'm like, has she seen a doctor yet? Oh, she just doesn't feel like she could go to school. Why not? Is she getting bullied? Is anybody getting to the root cause of this? Because she needs to learn, even if you have to homeschool. But everybody seems to have a choice. I don't want to do homework. I want to look on my phone. I don't want to listen to my teacher. I want to look on my phone and watch memes and funny videos. I don't want to eat the vegetables. I don't want to eat a healthy, balanced breakfast. I want to just grab a cereal box or a Pop-Tart. No. Maybe we need to get back to the basics and say, no, these are the things you have to do. Got to brush your teeth. You got to shower. You have to exercise. You have to get the vegetable in you. After you eat the salad, then we'll sit down and have dinner. But eat the salad. Did you get your vegetables in? These are things that just have to be done. You have a dog. People are thinking walking the dog is elective. No, you have a dog. The dog needs to be walked. It's all mandatory. Maybe we need to start reincorporating that, because this is ridiculous where we are from a health perspective. 1-877-DOC-DALY.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.